You're joining the Dr. Business Podcast with Dr. Hollen Meyer, where we talk business sprinkled with a bit of Jesus. Our goal is to help you simplify business, impact more lives, and increase your profitability. By sharing the stories of influential doctors from various specialties, we help you get creative in connecting with your target market, increasing your exposure in the community, and collaborating with local providers so you can reach more people and avoid burnout. Thanks for tuning in, and we're excited to help you navigate success in your doctor business. And now your host, Dr. Hollen Meyer.
All right, let's rock and roll. I am excited to introduce to you Dr. Ben Lerner. Doc, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's so great to be here. Thank you.
You bet. Now, Dr. Ben is a 2-time New York best-selling author. He's written over 20 books in multiple curricula translated in 14 languages. He has a bachelor's in nutrition, a master's in IO psychology. He is certified executive coach, a doctor of chiropractic, and if that's not enough, also a PhD candidate in business administration. He utilizes these skills to manage several companies, including the Ultimate Influence Group, which holds companies such as Vitalleo Health, Velocity Consulting and Coaching, Christ-Centered-Chiropractic, and SecureAire. His company, Vitalleo Health, works with hundreds of practitioners providing training, telehealth, patient testing, healthcare products, and care protocols. And while focusing on chiropractic as the main form of care, Dr. Ben continues to see patients utilizing both virtual and in-person whole health programs. My goodness, Doc, that is a mouthful, and you have done a lot for chiropractic, but a lot for healthcare in general. If you can fill in the gaps a little bit for us and tell us just what business looked like for you when you first got out of school, just a little glimpse of it, and then fast forward to today, how did you develop your vision and style of practice and focus?
I was trained by hardcore, hate-straight chiropractors. So I had mentors who thought if you adjusted below C2, you were a bloody mixer. So that's who developed me. If you didn't adjust with a gown on and palpate on skin, you were a bad person. You weren't just a bad chiropractor. And if you, of course, had anything in your office besides a chiropractic adjustment, then you were, venomous. So that is my background and what I was trained by. And I started out that way. So I started off hating most of my profession, but building a very high volume practice until eventually learning that there were other models out there and it was better that we would love each other and come together than to be apart.
Absolutely. And so you have grown, I'll say, and transitioned quite a bit throughout your journey in chiropractic.
Yeah, because the model, as I said, hit a ceiling. Okay, I eventually was adjusting 2,000 patients a week, and then I built 4 other clinics, so we had 5 clinics seeing 14,000 people a month, but the world still wasn't changing, and I wasn't sure how long I could see 2,000 patients a week for, and so began to evolve the model, evolve myself, adapt, adjust, to get better, because the mission's still the same, the world.
Okay, so you went from such a narrow-minded focus to how can I save the world, right? So such a huge vision. How did you grow into that vision, or how did you develop that vision? What are some tips that you can share with our listeners?
Some of it was crisis-driven. My dad died, so I'm 53. My dad died at 52. So I was brand new in practice. And I realized that there was more to this, so I was building a nice sized practice. I was adjusting over 1,000 a week in only 9 months in one location. And I dedicated my practice or my career to my dad, that I needed to reach all dads who were at risk like my dad was. And that's when it became 5 clinics. And then that wasn't enough. That was just Central Florida. How do we reach the state and the nation? And realizing to keep expanding, I had to become better. I needed to develop new skill sets. I needed to change my business models, my way of practicing, my way of training. Everything had to keep getting better. So I kept going back to school, getting more certifications. Because I was limited. I learned how to be a good chiropractor, but I was limited in my ability to go beyond that.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask you some of the typical questions that we talk about on this podcast. But I'm also going to go off script quite a bit with you in particular, with what's going on in the world today and how we can survive in business, because you've been through a few times such as this as well. So before I get to kind of like the today's hysteria and how to survive business, so far, what's one of the best investments that you've made in business?
That for me was furthering my education. As you read off, the master's in IO psychology. I wrote my thesis in corporate health. I built a company that had 70 employees, and I wasn't very good at it. I didn't know how to build a corporate culture. I didn't know how to develop systems to manage that many people and continue to thrive at the highest levels, where you could really globally make an impact in the world. So that's where I went back to school. That investment was a phenomenal investment in 3 years, and tens of thousands of dollars that has now set me up with those new skills for much greater growth and a far better relationship with my team members.
So just to clarify, because some people's just mentality here, you didn't jump into chiropractic with a silver spoon in your mouth as far as knowing business and knowing how to do all this. You were just like the rest of us.
I wasn't like the rest of you because I think I was worse at it.
Okay. That might be hard to believe, but I appreciate your evolvement and your just dedication to your mission too.
Yeah, I mean, as a driver, I'm a driver, and so I used to drive my employees right out the door.
Oh.
The joke was most people kept like a new patient stat. I kept new employee stats. So I'd go through about 2 a month, learning how to actually be a businessman, understand finances, and also manage a team and create a healthy, happy work environment. I needed a lot of work there.
For sure. And I think that most of us do. We kind of wing it for the most part. So what's one of the most successful failures that you've had in business?
As I said, there was just that, just the fact that I was struggling with the people that were around me. But I think that, really getting back to the time we're having now, kind of my most successful failure was running into my first real crises in business, where we had 9/11, which hit us really hard because we're in Orlando. So we depend wholly on people getting in an airplane and coming down to visit Mickey Mouse, and nobody was doing it for a few months. So people are being just laid off by the thousands. We became a real depressed society here in Orlando. It wasn't a pandemic like it is now, but it was certainly an Orlandemic. We certainly were with it all throughout Central Florida. And so with all that stress and strain and pressure, we learned how to adapt. We learned how to succeed in times of chaos and ambiguity and when there's a lot of turbulence, and found out that we could not only survive but thrive during those times and set yourself up for even better things in the future.
So let's unwrap that a little bit, because that's going to have so much value for our listeners in this timing, right? So how did you go from just a survival mentality? Because that's pretty much everyone, there's so much uncertainty from state to state if doctors, chiropractors in particular, can stay open even, or some of them they're shutting down. And in some areas, chiropractic is a essential healthcare that must stay open. How do we learn to not only survive, but also thrive during this time?
Yes, at first, I intensified. So I envisioned then, and as I have through other crises and now, that as people look at that line item of chiropractic on their budget, they're thinking about Xing it off, that they got to drop chiropractic. So I realized that I have to intensify my communication so that people would never imagine for in a million years dropping the chiropractic. So right now we are just aggressively helping people understand that this is the most critical time to be getting adjusted, because this is an immune battle that's being waged. And through chiropractic, you have your best chance to avoid the virus in the first place, or if you get it, make it an inconsequential infection that your body can easily recover from. The second piece after intensify really is we have to make certain adjustments, meaning, not just chiropractic adjustments in how we do business. So we do a lot of virtual work, as I mentioned, or you mentioned in my resume there. So we do a lot of testing through Vitalleo Health. So I've grown the number of people I'm seeing virtually. where we're dealing with their issues, where we can send them the labs, we get the results back, we can meet with them online, consult with them online. So we're growing that part of our business. So regardless of being shut down or anything like that, we'll still be able to thrive. And finally, we've got to adapt, we've got to learn from something like this. So I believe we have opportunities that come through all these crises to where we can get a better footing once the playing field levels out and be more ready for the future. So we've, through these processes, we're better. Our patients are better coming out of this. We have a more versatile way of delivering care. And as well as the fact that we've reached out to the community and we have become a resource for gyms and other businesses to teach about how to maximize immune function during this time, showing those other businesses how to be a resource during this time, so that once this is all over, we'll have 20, 30 additional partners in our community so that we'll be better off than we ever were before.
Yeah, I love that. Let's unwrap some of that. So when it comes to intensifying your communication, so you're not out in the public going to events anymore, right? So that's not really the thing. That's a lot of what doctors have done. What ways are y'all intensifying your communication as opposed to one-on-one?
So it's every way. One is just changing it. As an example, I had this wealthy patient who, no matter what you tell him chiropractic is, he still says, crack my back and, push here.
Yes.
Now it's like, listen, you get adjusted for your immune system. These are immune boosting adjustments. So now we actually were away on vacation this week, and he texted me twice saying, listen, I'm out there in the public. I need my immune boosting adjustment. So people are more open to hearing right now than ever before. So just changing some of the communication really helps, but then intensifying it. So we're, Facebook Live, sending out videos, texts, emails, handing out papers, whiteboards. I call it 6Xing it. We usually did one thing a week or so to communicate. Now we're doing 6 to communicate, radically intensifying it so that, again, just like I envision, they're going to look at that line item of chiropractic in their budget. I want them to have freshly received data that you cannot drop chiropractic. So that's by intensify.
I love that so much. And intensifying is, the perfect word for it. Like every way you can think of, go ahead and do it consistently. And then you had mentioned something that we talk about on this podcast is get off your island and collaboration. And so I love that you had mentioned, like, even your relationship with local businesses actually go up during this time instead of just being a recluse and staying on your island and not doing anything. How do you encourage those conversations? How do you get out there without actually getting out there?
Yeah, 2 quick examples. One is we were calling businesses and saying, listen, do you have resources, content to provide to your customers and your employees on what they can do to build their immune system and stay healthy during this time? We've very much been communicating, this is really just an immune system issue. If it's healthy, you're fine. If it's compromised, you're in trouble.
Right.
How do we help do that? We found nothing but people thrilled to have that support because they didn't have it to offer. And so we've opened up the floodgates for us. We can email, we can do webinars, we can send them videos that they'll circulate. So that's been really happily and widely received. And then just talking to pastors, gym owners, and saying, and really educating them, how can you be a resource now? Because many of them have just thought, we're just done. There's not much we can do. The gym, people aren't coming in. We're not allowed to have people come in. Like, listen, send out a workout of the day. Send out an email every day that goes with it, encouraging them to keep exercising for immune function and good health right now, and how excited you'll be to get them back once this is over, as well as, how can they forward this to other members in the community to really help grow their reach during this time of influence and not just simply feel like there's nothing they can do and it's going to shrink. And I've done the same thing for the pastors. I've got them 6Xing their communication. Listen, we need your words of wisdom every day, not just Sundays right now. So go live, send us emails, send us texts, keep the faith for us, keep us excited about the fact that God is still working in our lives. We need you now more than ever. Don't shut down. And so we're really leading the community through all this. And again, I really believe it's going to create tremendous opportunity once all this is over.
I love that. I love that you have instead of a victim mentality, it's a victor mentality, right? You're claiming the victory before it even happens, and you're making it happen.
What are the opportunities? There's a lot of opportunities. We before this happened, Christ-Centered Chiropractic, we would do a prayer call and there'd be 20, 30 people on it. We had 200 people on it last night. So there's just our virtual health programs. I've got calls coming in from everywhere. I want to do virtual health now. So what are the opportunities for you during this time? Not fear and sequester, like you said, get off your island. What are the opportunities? And again, how do I set myself up for where I'm going to look back on this moment, like I can look back on 9/11 and say, that was a real accelerator to the growth we had in our community and all throughout Central Florida. It wasn't a time of depression. It was a time of actual exponential growth.
I love it. And to the viewers out there listening to this and watching this, I want you to get that mind shift right now that this is a moment for opportunity. This is a moment. And when you look back, it is going to be a moment in time, but you have the opportunity to claim the victory and really be the leader and step up and be the leader for small businesses. Instead of asking people just to support you, go out there and actually get a community of small businesses together, and you be the one who leads the force in that. So thanks so much for that. Now, I don't always know a whole lot about my guests and their spiritual life, but I do know quite a bit about you just from watching you and seeing you live life. How has your spiritual life played a role in your business in particular?
Yeah, this is really pinnacle for me. It's a phenomenal question because I want to, and I believe everybody needs to practice as who they are. Great example. There's a church, Christ Fellowship in Palm Beach, and it's one of the biggest churches in the world. Massive church, super wealthy church. And Tom Mullins who's the pastor and founder, was a guy that I got to meet. So for 7 years, and this is such a great piece here for chiropractors out there, for 7 years, he never had more than 60 people. I mean, now there's hundreds of thousands of people. Imagine your practice being open for 7 years and you've never adjusted more than 50, 60 people a week. That was him. One day he finally realized, he goes, I was a football coach. That's what he said to himself. I'm a coach. I need to go in there and just stop trying to be a pastor and go coach people. That's what I am. And the the church took off. So what you see, it started growing exponentially. 120, 240, 500, 700, 1,000, tens of thousands, because he became who he was. So originally I really I love God and I believe he heals, but I'm going to kind of keep that to my private time and be, this scientific, white coat chiropractor. And the practice did okay, but I felt unsatisfied and unfulfilled, and that there would be another level if I would just open this up and be who I was. So finally, I went in the office, I wrote on every single whiteboard, I move the bone, God does the healing. Mm-hmm. The power that made the body heals the body. It doesn't happen any other way. So I'm going all out in this. I'm all in. So the fourth patient to walk in that day said, if you do this, if you bring God into your business will go out of business. And I said in that moment, then I'll go out of business, but I refuse to practice any different than who I am. That patient stayed with me for years. And we saw, even though I'm a Christian, we had massive amounts of Muslims and Jehovah's Witness and all different types of religions who respected me for being who I was. Even though we had a difference in opinions, they appreciated that I was authentic and real. And that's when practice finally got satisfying, and it really blew up. That's when we went from seeing 800-900 a week up to 2,000 a week.
That is awesome. I got goosebumps from that story. I love it. I have a similar story myself. Even when I started out in practice, I got a coach and all that kind of stuff, and I modeled their business model, their scripts and everything, and we did pretty good, just like you had said. But as soon as I started making everything my own, the coaching was excellent, but I was trying to be somebody else, not necessarily putting my own personality and spin into it. And once we did, it really took off from there. So thanks for sharing that with us. Now we are going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to go into the fire rapid round. Are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
I love it. I knew you'd be be ready. All right, I'm going to ask you a few questions and you'll just answer some short, quick answers, okay?
Yep.
So in hindsight in business, what should be the 2 top areas of focus for doctors in practice?
One, it's the people. My mentor just said, just take care of the folks. And so I say have a perfect product and deliver that product perfectly to the people, because if God's sending them in, he's also standing there to see how you do. The second one is be the wellness leader in the community. Be the go-to person, which is, again, about this evolution and skill sets so that nobody's better in the area of wellness than you.
Yes, and you have done that in your community in Florida, but also in the chiropractic community, in the healthcare community. So you have just expanded that concept so much, like globally. So thank you. Next question is, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
When I was the chiropractor at the Olympics in Australia, somebody on our team was the 150th wealthiest man in the world. So anytime I'm around somebody like that, I always ask that question, can you give me one piece of great advice? And he simply said, follow through. He said, if you say you're having lunch with somebody, have lunch with that person. If you have committed to anything within business, you follow through with it. And I've never seen that advice let me down.
I love that so much. And I love that you even mentioned from the smallest things that you have said you're going to do to the big things as well. I'm such a stickler on that. What is one thing that you consistently see in every successful business owner?
It's only going to grow to the size of your vision. So big vision. If you're fortunate, you do not find something that you just simply live for, but something you die for. And big people, we're trying to attract the biggest people. Big people are not attracted to small vision or small visionaries. It's literally written into our DNA that we're attracted to big purpose, a purpose that's bigger than you.
I love that. It reminds me of that, the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. So giving back, this is the last question. What is one of the best resources for business that you've utilized that you would recommend for other folks listening in?
I'm a big reader. I'm a it's kind of 2 or 3 book a month reader. Right now there's a book that I read called Masters of Change, and it talked about it. This is a book from years ago. It talked about the fact that we need to be able to thrive during periods of chaos and ambiguity and turbulence like now, not just make it. Certainly can't be crushed by it, but actually thrive through it. That's a great book. I wrote a book called 0 to $1 Million in 1 year. And it's about this mission-based kind of business. So that's something I've put out there, but also have reached out to, again, I'm about being coached. I was a wrestler in college and knew the best coaches created the best wrestlers.
Right.
I believe it's the same thing in chiropractic. Find key leaders to help you grow and find the best resources to help you thrive.
I love that so much. And Dr. Ben, thank you so much for all your knowledge and for sharing everything with us today. I know there's some people listening in that kind of picked up on a few things that you said and like, I want to jump on that call. I want to reach out to him. How can people get a hold of you?
So if you go to drbenlerner.com, if you need to make any requests of us, you can email us there. I'm on Facebook a lot, so you can always private message me. Always happy to respond to those because I'm here not just for the profession. But I'm here. If you're watching, I'm here for you. God put me here to serve people, and so I love you all. So anybody needs help, feel free to reach out to me, especially with what we're going through right now.
I love that, and thank you so much for your service. How can people jump on that call? Is that information on your website as well?
We post it, we email it out, so we'll make sure people know when those prayer calls are. They're going to happen every Tuesday morning at 9 and every Thursday night at 9:15.
Awesome, and I'll be sure to post those links or any information in the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Ben, for your time.
Thank you. Bless you guys.
Thank you. And to our listeners, if you have a nugget or something that you got from this podcast, I want you to share it with us, mention it in the comments, and definitely share this podcast with your colleagues. And thank you so much for listening in, and stay classy, folks.